Good evening. Hello everyone. Welcome to some more rFactor 2 at Overtake.gg and the 1984 British Grand Prix in the single-seater Monday. So we are a couple of minutes away from qualifying. Let's see if we can go into the game. Here we go. And then we'll click this button to get full screen. Yeah, I think we're sorry, I think we're pretty good now. So we have originally 11 drivers signed up for the event, I think, yeah. We have only 8 drivers on the server currently. Well, I say only, we have 8 drivers on the server because one has had to go off it and rejoin as Edward went off the road. Now, who is fastest at the moment? It's Michelle who is fastest. With a lap time of 1 minute and 6.9, and he lost it. Right. Well, qualifying is scheduled to start at 1/4 the hour, so we are relatively close. Now, how is the sound levels? I might have to reduce the game slightly. Yeah, no, that'll be fine. And then we click the buttons, we get all messages in the chat window over there. No, that's good. Yeah. Great. So there are some things to the race. One of which is that there is no fuel refilling in the pit stops. So everybody has to start with the amount of fuel they need for an entire race, which is what they do in the modern day Formula 1 as well, I think. Don't ask me, I don't really follow Formula 1. And the tire usage is set to ×2. So it will be... there will have to be some pit stops tonight. And it opens up for some different strategies. Right, I think Leslie is the last guy to come across the line, or to finish his last lap of practice before we jump into qualifying. Hi, Geroid, by the way. Well, the AMS2 DLC looks promising indeed. I mean, I've seen guys like GP Labs having a lot of fun with it. So I was like, I kind of want to buy it myself. But then I had a think, and I figured out I have driven half an hour of that game all in all, and the last time I touched the game was in 2022. So I've let it be for now. Might have a look at it later on. Right, so it's a 10-minute qualifying session we are looking at. And the green flag is there, or the green light if you want. And people are starting to get get moving. We've got 9 drivers on the server right now. Now, I'm kind of excited for this race. It's been a while since I've watched and then one of these sort of live streams. Currently following Christopher Elliott on his outlap. Well, that didn't go too well. Let's have a look at Michel then, who has a purple first sector on his flying lap, as there is a yellow flag in sector 1. Now, I should remember the name of some of these corners, but I don't really I don't really do that. My crash has gone even faster in sector 1 at this point. Purple sector 2 for Michel again. And Steve is the one who is just ahead of him on the road. So Steve is in with a 107.1 and Michel is straight in and is faster with a 106.6. But he was slightly slower on the on the last sector, sorry. And Crash is here with purple sector 1 and sector 2, and he goes to the top with a 106.544. A little over a tenth faster than Michel. Let's see, Leslie is the next one here to set a lap time. He's a bit slightly slower than the others, but 107.3, that is still a good time. He is within a second of the overall fastest lap time so far, as Michel is again with a purple second sector. Around last corner and goes to the top, 106.407. And Crash has apparently cut the track at some point, because he is not on a lap that is being timed anymore. Now this is Edward's first flying lap as well in the Renault. And I know it's a Renault because I can see the text on the car. Big wobble. Oh, Edward is with the purple sector in sector 2. A little bit behind the sector 1, but slightly off the road into the last corner. But she clocks into third position with that, as Michel is again with another purple sector in sector 1 and sector 2 and goes even faster with a 106.2. Nice. Following Edward, he is faster in Sector 1 than he was on the last lap, and that's not the that's not the way to do a better lap time. Right, so who else is out on the track? Christopher has just gone into the pits. Scott in the other Renault is out on a flying lap. Yes, he is. Slightly behind what he's done in as best time in the first sector. And Scott is again slower than what has been in the best lap time in Sector 2. Goes across the line with the 1:11.9, so that's half a second down on his best lap time so far. But I think he was the one who said that he forgot to put on the qualifying boost. Or apply qualifying boost setting for the engine mapping. Right, Andrew Lingard then. It's a green first sector, so he's on an improvement. Did you like the acrobatics? Yeah, that was really spectacular to watch. Let's see. Well, slower in the middle sector for Andrew. But he goes across the line and does improve his lap time to 1:08.7. Still not quite enough to move further up the leaderboard, but it is an improvement. Now Leslie is also out there on a flying lap. Seems like everybody has been in the pits and reshuffled. Oh, and Crash is actually fastest on the leaderboard. I didn't catch that. He's done a 1:06.090. He's also set a purple sector in first sector 1. But let's follow Leslie in towards the last corner and the finish line, because Leslie is also faster in sector 2 than he has been. And does a 1:06.361 and slots into third position with a purple last sector actually in that lap. So faster than anybody else has been in the final sector on the track. Helps him slot in ahead of Edward. Crash was on a fast lap, but he has returned to the pits and will not do any more laps. Same thing with Michel. Leslie is out there and he's done a purple first sector right now. Oh, big slide. A big wiggle. He is down by a second on the middle sector. And onto the grass and has to abandon that lap, does Leslie. That is annoying. Because that could have been an improvement. Now Edward is faster in sector 1 than he has been. And he does some more acrobatics. Of course he does, because I clicked his name on the list. And Scott was also on a flying lap, but he has returned to return to the pits. So I guess the grid is set then, with Crush at pole position with a 106.0, ahead of Michelle, Leslie in third, Edward in fourth, Steve in fifth, Christopher in sixth, Andrew in seventh, Scott in eighth, and Paul did not take part in the qualifying session. Oh, hi Hugo, welcome along. Now if I click the button that says starting order, oh look at this, this is beautiful. Nice. Nice. Right, well, one thing I want to do then is so we are into the race session now. We have 4 minutes, I think. Yeah, it doesn't say on the screen, but everybody has about, I think it's 4 minutes to do a reconnaissance lap. Or go back through the pits and do another reconnaissance lap to get some heat into the brakes and tires and such. And yeah, as you can see, it's a 45 lap race, so we should be done in roughly an hour. And I am alone in commentary tonight, so there is a big chance of me missing a lot of stuff happening. So and this is really cool. Oh, if we now click the starting order button, go Crush in pole position and ahead of Michelle, Leslie in third, Edward in fourth position, Steve in fifth position, Christopher in sixth, Andrew will start in seventh position, Scott will start in eighth position, and rounding off the grid is Paul in the Ferrari at the back. Right, let's get the standings up and running again. This is so cool, watching all the cars come rolling to the grid. And then now at now, what does the weather forecast say? Because we are running live weather. So we might have some rain actually moving in from what I can hear on the Discord. Righto, we're about to start racing then. Yeah, let's leave the camera on crash. There we go. And revs are rising. And we are off. Crash with a good start, the same with Michelle. Leslie in third. It seemed like he was bogging down a little bit on the start, and he's swamped. Oh, he's overtaken by Edward on the outside. Edward also trying to get past Michelle, but couldn't quite do it. So heading into the Grand Prix loop, and Crash is ahead of Michelle. Edward in third, Leslie in fourth, Christopher in fifth. Has overtaken Steve from the start. Steve is sixth. Oh, there's a yellow flag in sector 2. Scott is off. Let's see if we can catch a replay of that. Oh, he just outbraked himself, it looks like. And going into the Grand Prix loop. Steve is 6th, yeah. Andrew is 7th. Paul is 8th. And Scott then in 9th position after going off there. So Crash has started to gap Michelle and Edward a little bit, because Michelle and Edward might have been squabbling a little bit more over over track position. And Leslie in 4th position has the fastest sector 1 of everyone on track right now, as it looks like Michelle is stretching out a little bit compared to Edward. Oh, and everybody's off and around and around. Oh, no, 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 no. And Leslie says, thank you very much, and it goes past all three of them. Oh, Michelle and Edward and Koresh went off the road at the same time. Oh no, no, no. So Leslie has taken the lead and Michelle is still in second position. He managed to get back in on track in it. And Steve also says thank you very much and moved up to third position, as Christopher has also fallen down a bit leaderboard. Christopher in 8th position. Right, so we have a little bit of train then with Steve and Edward and Crash. Edward really climbing up on the rear end of Steve's car. And it did sound like Edward is on a softer compound tire as well, so well, he said he was on the wrong compound tire, so he might come in for a pit stop quite early. Right, so as per usual with these Formula 1 races at Overtake, Edward clipping the inside. Now, the starting order does not necessarily represent how the grid will be after a couple of laps. Edward is still all over the gearbox of Steve. There's a yellow flag in sector 2, because Christopher has fallen off the track and is down to last position now. Oh, here comes Edward to the inside, and he brings a long crash with him. It opens up a big gap on the inside of Steve's car there, and that is a gap that really fits the car that Crash had as well. Says thank you very much and moves up back into 4th position. So the fight back has started. As hello Ola and welcome along. And Christopher is in the pits. He might have sorry, he might have some tire damage already. Or some damage even after going off. I didn't look at the replay to see what was going on there. But he will anyway be a lap down once he re-enters the track. It looks like the gaps has opened up a little bit. Well, I say the gaps has opened up a little bit. The gap for the lead is closing down a bit again, with Michelle was well, half a second faster than Leslie on the previous lap. And there we go, around the outside and book it. I haven't heard that in a while. That's a good overtake, and that Michelle must be running with either a higher boost level or lower wings, because that was a very easy pass. Leslie tries to think of it going back into the last corner, but nope, isn't quite close enough. Leslie hasn't given up yet, but the big slide, but the distance is a bit is increasing. And instead, for Leslie, I might have to have a little bit of a look in the mirror, because Edward is coming up quite quickly behind there as well. I was going to say the crash is there too, but he is about a second down the road. Oh, here comes Edward. Not quite far enough up the side, and goes up the road on the... Oh, and crash in the background does the same thing, and crash spun. Crash spun into the wall again. And that did allow Steve back through, as big tank slapper again for Leslie, and this opens up for Edward on the inside. No, not quite far enough ahead. So again, using the slipstream to the inside, but no. Oh, and off. Leslie goes off, but it's still not... Oh no, Leslie! Where did he go? Where did he go? Well, he did manage to save it, but now Steve is all over the rear end of that car. There's a yellow flag in sector 2, because Paul has gone off the road, I think. Yeah, you know what it is? Well, no, it looked like it was a spicy battle, but it looks like Andrew has pulled away a little bit from Paul again. Was just a couple of tenths in it. Looks like Andrew has been able to make a little bit of a gap. As we move forward again to the battle between Leslie and Steve. Steve half a second behind. This is the two closest cars we have on the track at the moment, as Michel is enjoying a 3.7 second lead over Edward, and he has just put in the fastest lap time of the race with a 1:10.2. As Steve is up showing himself in the mirror. Oh yeah, that's not the way of... That's not the right phrase of it. He shows his intent in the mirror of Leslie's car. Shows that he is there and wants the position. He's not quite close enough to be able to do anything about it. But how about this then? And he's through. Seems like Leslie is running quite high at downforce level tonight, because he's been almost left for dead on that straight coming onto the Grand Prix loop. So going from a surprise lead, if you want, and then falling down into 4th position, as we started lap 11 out of 45, so that is about a quarter of the race already done. Everything is happening rather quickly. a little bit of time to catch my breath. Let's go on board with Paul Davey then for a lap, because he is just hovering around a second behind Andrew Lingard. In the fight for 7th position. And Edwards' soft tires has already packed in. Oh! He comes out just in the middle of this battle. I was gonna say that Edwards' front tires especially had given up the ghost, given that he has started on the softest compound of tires available for at the race, which didn't help him that much. Oh! Andrew into the wall. That allows both Edward and Paul past. And I can't see him in the looking behind there either, so he has fallen down quite a bit. So crashed then in 4th position after starting in pole position, having 2 off-road excursions. He had the fastest lap of the race for a while. I think he still has the 2nd fastest lap in the race, and we have a yellow flag in sector 1. And I can't spot who went off. It is Scott who went off. Must have been. Yeah, because he's fallen down to 8th position now. And another yellow flag in sector 2. Oh. And I've just realized that the fight is on between Steve and Michelle. Just 0.2 of a second between them. So I guess that Michelle was the one who went off the road there. Yeah, because Steve made up 6 seconds to Michelle on the previous lap. And Edward, with a fresh set of tires, is putting in the fastest lap of the race with a 109.8. The first guy to go under 110 on the... excuse me. First one to go under 1 minute and 10 in the race. Yeah, it is a very narrow and fast track to begin with. Hugo, it is. So, and then throw these quite tricky Formula 1 cars to drive into the mix. That doesn't make it any easier. I can tell you that for sure. So Edward again with the fastest lap of the race with a 1:09.2 now. As we move 2 positions further down the leaderboard, because Crash is now under a second behind Leslie. As Scott is in the pits. And there's a yellow flag in sector 2 again, and that's Paul who is off, I think. Yeah, it is. Paul has spun. Well, rejoined the race. That's good. Good to see. Oh, and Leslie has... Now everything is happening at once. Let's go into the replay there to see what happened. Oh, that's a big hit to the wall. It's a good thing that we're running a quite low damage on the server, because we would have had a couple of race ending. Oh, a crash has been off. Where did crash go off? Oh, we went off the same place as in as in the opening laps. And Michelle is spinning, and that has allowed Steve to go up into the lead. How about that? That's 4 positions gained, and for Steve says thank you very much, and slots into the lead of the race. And we have another yellow flag. Sector 2, because somebody went off the road. I couldn't quite spot who it was. There's another yellow flag. Could have been Scott, maybe. Yeah, it is Scott. Scott is off the road, going slowly. Rejoins just after teammate Edward has put in another lap. And Michel is into the pits. I did see him fall down a couple of positions on the live timing, but it makes sense with the pit stop. First at the tires and back out onto the road, or onto the track rather. But Michel has dropped quite a bit of time, because he rejoins behind Andrew, actually, even who just went past there. He's like almost 23 seconds behind Edward, and Scott is back into the pits. Might have done some stuff to his tires, or might be at the end of the life cycle of the tires, maybe. And everybody goes off. Yeah, these are tricky cars to drive, and in places the track is bumpy enough to upset the car in the right kind of conditions when you're on the maximum level of grip. Crash has gone into the pits, so that means that he will be dropping down behind this fight even. Oh, and Scott has Yeah, that's... misclicked the button and went down into second position, no, second gear rather. And that's the end of that engine. We did actually spot Paul going off the road there as well. Right, yeah, there we go. We are back live. So Scotland is the first retirement of the race, and we got to quite close to half distance actually before we had the first retirement of the race. And then after everybody, I know I almost said that everybody has done a pit stop, but Steve has not been in and Leslie has not been in. It says that Michelle hasn't been in the pits either, but that's wrong. So I don't know if we can actually trust that. I can trust that statistics. But yeah, no, Steve hasn't been in the pits yet, from what I know. And it is 19, yes, just shy of 19 seconds between him and Edward. So Edward might be going back into lead once Steve has done his pit stop. Right, so the closest two cars on the track right now is Michelle and Kreshnik. Kresh fighting for fourth position it is, yeah. Now let's click this button. Because I do forget that we have more... and that does not do anything, of course, because I have modified the window of the overlay. Okay, right, never mind. Somebody was in the pits right now. That was Leslie. Has done a pit stop. So that is his first pit stop of the race. And the gap between Steve and Edward in front is 17.1 seconds, and there's a yellow flag in sector 1. Could have been Leslie on the exit. No, it was Andrew. Has a slow sector 1 time. Yeah, no, the gap between Steve and Edward is coming down, and Steve also owes us a pit stop. And then Edward has a gap of 23 seconds to Michelle. But then again, it is about a second between Michelle and Crash. And there's a yellow flag in sector 3. It's Christopher. Oh, no, 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 no. That was Edward had a spin. And it was Paul, I think, who was just ahead of him. who made it past cleanly. That was that could have been catastrophic. Now Leslie had a little bit of moment there. Let's see. Well, not only that, but he... Is that Michelle ahead of him? No? Yeah, it is Michelle who is ahead of him. No, we didn't see it because there was an advertisement board on the apex. Yeah, no, Leslie is now suddenly just a second behind Michelle as Steve goes into the pits from the lead of the race. He managed to keep the tires going for half the race distance, so that is very good. Of course, this means that Edward will get by, but I think Edward might also have to do another pit stop. Steve might get all the way through to the end from this point. Now Crash is also gonna get by Steve, yes he is. But Steve do rejoin the circuit in third position. What is it? They were around 8 seconds ahead of Michelle and Crash. Sorry, Michelle and Leslie. Well, Crash was the fastest guy on that last lap. He was just about a second faster than anybody else on the track. But he's still 17.5 seconds behind Edward, so half a second is not really enough to catch back up. Now Leslie was about 1/10 of a second faster than Michelle on that last lap. But that doesn't matter, because Michelle went off the road in Paddock Hill. And there's a yellow flag in sector 3. I didn't catch. It was Andrew who locked up. Oh, I locked up and spun going into the pits. That's far from ideal. Oh, and Edward is on an adventure from the lead of the race. Now, where is this on the track? Was that in... Oh! That was Graham Hill Bend. And Paul had to stop behind there to not go into him. Christopher is also just behind there as well. Huh. So things are happening all over the place, and now suddenly for Crash it's just 5 seconds up. The Crash is 5 seconds down the road from Edward now instead of 17, so this plays back into his hands, given that Edward has to do another pit stop. Crash might have to do another pit stop too, come to think of it. But Crash could also then go on to the softer tire for the last Yeah, right now we have still 5 cars on the lead lap. Paul and Andrew is 1 lap down and Christopher is 2 laps down. And Steve has just done the fastest lap of everyone on that lap with a new purple sector in sector 3. So the fresh set of tires is helping Steve quite a lot. He is only 11.5 seconds down on Edward as well, so yeah, no, it's all to play for still. Let's see, after the pit stop there has been a good amount of personal best lap times. Edward with the fastest lap of the race, of course, with a 109.2. Oh, and that's Leslie. Leslie off in paddock hill. Let's have a look at the replay. Oh, that's another hard hit. Oh. Well, that was interesting, to put it that way. And Edward has just been in the pits, or he's currently in the pits actually, which leaves Crash back into the lead ahead of Steve. Will Michel also be able to get by? Yes, he does. So Edward then in for his second pit stop of the race. With 15 laps to go, so he should be able to get home from this point then. But he do rejoin the track 30 seconds behind Crash in the lead. Crash, mind you, might also have to do another pit stop. But more crucially, he is 24 seconds or so behind Steve in second position, and Steve will, from all that I can tell, be able to go all the way to the finish with his set of tires. Yeah, now to have a look at how tricky these cars are to drive, let's go around for a lap with Leslie. Oh, and we've just gone by. Was it Michelle who was Stuck at the side of the road, there it was. Let's have a look at the replay of that. Going over the curbs and getting all sorts of loose and out of shape. Yeah, and go straight to the pits to get a fresh set of tires on the car. As Edward has put in another best lap of the race with a 109.1. Which makes sense given that the fuel level in the car is getting lower and lower. And then with a fresh set of tires, of course that means that the pace will increase. But with that being said, it didn't make up more than 0.6 of a second to Steve over that last lap, because Steve did a 109.7, which is not that far away from his best lap of the race, which is a 109.5. Steve also in that lap gained 0.8 of a second ahead of Crash. Andrew had a spin. Leslie had a spin ahead of Andrew, and then Andrew had a spin in the next corner. And Michelle is back in the pits. Is that a drive-through? It might be, you know, given the relatively short pit stop time. That has allowed Paul back past. The gap between them are 20 seconds, so that's probably not gonna... And it's not gonna shrink fantastically much by pure pace. There must be something happening for it to... for it to get better. Now Steve in second position is slowly eating into the lead that Crash has. And I think that Crash might have to go for another pit stop. Here we have Steve. It's now down to 4.7 seconds. Because Steve has been... what's that? It's another 8 tenths of a second faster than Crash on that last lap, as Edward has put in another best lap time of the race with a 108.9, so that's the first guy to go under 109 in the race session. Still 24 seconds between him and Steve, so no, 20 seconds between him and Steve, reading the correct column. As I say that, it's now down to 3.6 seconds between Steve and Crash. Because Steve did take almost 0.8 of a second in the last sector alone compared to Crash. It's 2.5 seconds between them now. Let's go on board with Steve, because now we should be able to see... Yeah, we do see Crash up ahead. I think Leslie had another spin. Yeah, Steve is closing in big time. He did catch another 6/10 of a second, sorry, in the first sector of the track. Another half a second in sector 2. Leslie is in the pits. And Crush is heading for the pits. So Steve gets back into the lead of the race. So they did, they did a very similar last sector of the race, of the track, apparently. And Edward has then gone into second position. 18.8 seconds down. Crash has rejoined the track, just behind, just behind Leslie, and spun on cold tires into Druids. One thing I just realized is that is that Leslie and Paul is actually squabbling for 4th position. As Leslie go by on the inside, so not that much of a squabble then. Paul has also, well, it says that he hasn't done a pit stop, but I do think that he has. I can't imagine him not having done a pit stop at this point in the race. And Michelle has put in the fastest lap of the race. A lap or two ago, actually. So Michelle has done a 108.949. And Edward's fastest lap of the race was a 108.951. So that's 0.02 of a second in between there. And Crash has just put in a... fastest first sector of anyone in the race. And he has also done a personal best second sector, as Leslie has just done his fastest lap of the race with a 109.1 with a purple final sector. And there we go, Crash is the fastest guy on the track with a 108.595. So never mind those 0.02 of a second between Edward and Michelle. Crash has just gone and been 0.4 of a second faster. As I say that, Leslie is in with a new fastest first sector of the race. So it is really starting to get happy hour now that we have only 5 more laps to drive, with the cars being really light on fuel, and some of these drivers done with the freshest tires they can possibly have. So the gap then from Steve to Edward is still 14.5 seconds. The gap between Edward in second and Crash in third is 17.9 seconds. Crash did catch up another second to Edward on that lap, and Edward in turn did catch up another second on Steve on that lap. Michel has gone by Paul for the 5th position. And Leslie goes to the top of the fastest lap leaderboard with 108.276. That's another 0.3 of a second faster than Crash's best time. I say as we watch Crash going slightly off the track. Oh, and I hear that the Steve and Crash might be running out of fuel in this race. Now that's gonna be a cruel twist to an otherwise perfectly good good tactical race by Steve. And then all of a sudden, the gap between Steve and Edward is dropping a lot. Dropping like a cartoon anvil. It's now down to 5 seconds. So Steve dropped 5 seconds to Edward in the and it is happening because Edward is right on the rear end of Steve's car. It's 2 laps to go of the race. We just started lap 44 out of 45. And we have another change of lead because Edward has gone by Steve. Because he has a lot more fuel in the car than Steve has. Edward can go flat to the end. And Steve has to lift and coast. Steve had suddenly getting the fuel warning light come on in his car. As you can see, Edward is past and just zooms away. And Christopher is just staying behind Steve in case he might need a push to the end of the race. There's a yellow flag in sector 1 again. And that's Andrew, who has spun coming out of Druids. So I entered the last lap of the race. And Edward is into the onto the Grand Prix track. Through the last corner, and despite starting the race on the wrong set of tires, he is still winning the race. And Steve is running on fumes now, coming in towards the last corner of the track after a really good tactical race, being able to preserve the tires and go for the one stop. But there we have it, the engine just stopped. Perfectly managed. And third position then for Crash. And Leslie then finished in fourth position. He is the first guy a lap down, actually. Right, now how does this button work? It's race department, Daytona International Speedway. No, that's not wrong. Ah, there we go. There's the results. So we have Edward winning the race then, ahead of Steve in second position. Crash managed to hold on to third position, with also running low on fuel. Leslie came back into fourth position then at the end. Michelle in fifth. Paul came in sixth position. He is also a lap down, along with Andrew in seventh position. And another 2 laps down to Christopher in 8th position, and Scott did retire in about halfway into the race with a blown engine. So yeah, that was that. One Renault was lost, but the other one won big time. Yes, indeed. Oh, right. Well, I think that was the last race, last live stream thingy that I will do before we go IRL stuff towards Motor Park. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. I hope you did enjoy this. It is always fun to see the how these Formula 1 races at Overtake unravel, because one thing is qualifying, another thing is the race itself. It usually turns out into something completely different, and always throwing a spanner in the works towards the end. Right, that will be it for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone. Do enjoy whatever is left of your Monday, and I will catch you all later. So take care then, and goodbye!